catch 'em all.
Alright, ladies and gents, welcome back to another Drawing in Perspective video. We are going to show you how to set up a two-point perspective city project, okay? So I'm actually going to use a pencil for some of this, and hopefully it shows up on the screen, because normally I draw with a marker, but the marker is just going to be a little bit too thick to do this, okay? So here's what you're going to do. I don't know, I like to do this on big paper. I don't really like to do it in a sketchbook, but my students are using sketchbooks right now, so we're going to be using the sketchbook, alright? Let's say 3 or 4 inches from the top of your paper, you're going to draw your horizon line, okay? I got to draw darker. It's a little better. 2 vanishing points, one on the left, one on the right. Put them out as far as you can. Do not draw outside of this area, and do not draw outside of this area. Because the closer you get to these points in two-point perspective, and really in any perspective project, the more skewed it looks. It looks a little odd, okay? So you want to stick, having your stuff, mainly in the middle of the drawing, okay? All right, so here's how you're going to start. You're going to have a street, you're going to have a sidewalk, you're going to have 10 buildings, and we're only going to do a couple in this video. And out of those 10 buildings, 3 of them have to be stacks of 2 or 3 different objects, which I'll explain when I get there a little bit later, okay? And then you guys are going to do 10 pieces of random detail, which means, like, if you put a garbage can somewhere, then that would be 1. If you put a street light, that would be 2. If you put a newspaper rack, that'd be 3. So you're just going to find random pieces of detail like that and put that throughout your drawing, and that's going to make it look a lot more realistic, okay? If you want to take up the challenge of drawing a car, you could do that, all right? So here's what we're going to start with. We're going to go in the middle of the paper down here. We're going to find a point, and what we're going to do with that point is we're going to draw that up about 1 inch, okay? So if you're using a scale or a ruler, you can go with that, or you can just kind of guess at what you think an inch is. It's not really a big deal. And that's going to be our road, okay? I know that this is how we would start a building, but if we don't finish it by putting back lines and things like that, and we don't do the crisscross, we end up with a nice looking road, okay? So you're going to draw these 2 points, top and bottom, to both vanishing points. These lines you can draw heavy because you're not going to erase these later. So you get something like that. That's going to be the road. Now, to give you an idea of how this is going to be the road, if I would put my straight edge right in the middle here, I'm going to draw some lines like they are street lines. And those street lines are going to get shorter and shorter as they get further and further back, and then to a point that you really can't even see them. Alright, something like that. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, because we don't really know how small that would actually look to us. But something like that. Okay? Alright, so next thing is going to be a curb. Okay? You're going to go right off of this point, and you're going to go straight up, probably about 1/4 of an inch. You know what? Let's make it a 1/2 inch. Alright? And you can put a curb on the other side as well. You would do that by drawing an edge down here, but I'm just going to do it on the one side, okay? So this curb, or I should say this sidewalk, is also going to draw back to both vanishing points. Now here's where it gets fun. Every line in the sidewalk, if you're on the right side of this drawing, is going to go to the left vanishing point. If you're on the left side, you're going to be going to the right vanishing point. So what you want to do is probably mark evenly where you think you want these pieces to be. And again, they're going to get closer and closer as they get further back. Until, you get back here and then you really can't see anything back there anyways. So we'll go like this. and then a little bit closer and a little bit closer and closer and closer all the way back. Alright, we'll just stop there. And like I said, you're going to take these points, and we're actually, since I put them on this side, you're going to draw away from the vanishing point. So you're going to go to the left vanishing point, even though we're on the right side, and you draw away. And let me draw a couple, and then you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Again, you can draw this heavy because you're not going to erase any of this. Although, unless you put a garbage can or something like that on the sidewalk, then maybe you would erase a line or two. But for me, in this video, I'm going to make it dark so you guys can actually see it. Alright, so you get something like that. And then we'll do the other side. They're going to go towards the right vanishing point. Or I should say away from the right vanishing point, since I drew them on that side. Just make sure that you're lined up perfectly with that vanishing point, otherwise it's going to look funny. What this is really doing is it's changing the angle on every single line all the way down. So this one is coming up hard, but this one's almost coming in horizontal because it's changing as it goes, right? So we've got our sidewalk, okay? Now we're going to start with buildings. The first thing I want to say about these buildings, coming from the last video, we talked about buildings very briefly, is that you don't always have to have a front edge of your building. You can start with what you would call a front edge in one-point perspective. You can start with a face like this. Let me draw that bottom line a little darker. And the difference is that you don't have one edge, you have two edges. So the right edge is going to go towards the right vanishing point. Now this one is already going because it's touching the curb. And this one's already going because that's touching the other curb. So you don't have to draw those lines again. But we do have to draw this. And I'm not going to go all the way because this building's not going to go that far. And this. Now this building is not going to be a box, okay? It's going to be something else. I haven't really decided yet. We're going to drop our back lines. And you just stop when you hit the curb. Back line, straight up and down, stop when you hit the curb. And now we do our crisscross. This is kind of like a diner or something like that. Oop, I didn't mean to draw that all the way back, but that's okay. You guys are going to draw super light, and then when you make a mistake, it's easy to erase. And then you go back and darken it later before you submit. Alright? So now, I would put detail on this. Let's say I have like a little band of windows or something. I'd put a little straight up and down line. I'm on the left side, or we could call that the front side of the drawing there, or of the building, and you're going to draw that back towards the left vanishing point. So if you're on the left, you go to the left. Something like that. Maybe the door's on this face. And maybe there's the same exact windows on this side. Oop, that wasn't a great line, but that's okay. Try to use a straight edge as much as possible. Alright, so you get something like that. Alright, next building. Okay, this is how it's going to work. If I want the buildings to touch, okay, that way you can see what I'm looking at here. If I want the buildings to be right next to each other, then I'm going to just take this back edge and I'm going to draw up higher for my next building. And they will touch each other, okay? So that edge now, you can see the bottom is already going because that's part of the sidewalk. The top, and I'm sorry, this will not go to the far one because this building's in the way, so you wouldn't draw like that. But the top part of it, depending how deep you want the building to go, is going to draw towards both vanishing points. Drop your back lines. It depends where you want it. How thick do you want this to be? Now I got some extra. Now this is the part that gets interesting with these buildings. This point, even though we can't see it because the building's in the way, it's still back there somewhere, okay? So I like to do like little dotted light lines like this so you can see where that would be. And then if I wanted to come down here, I would come down until it hits that dotted line. So really, you're going to see where I drew this line, and it's going to be different for every single person that's doing this. but you see that I came down and then I actually see a little bit of the back line there, right? So then your last step is a crisscross. Don't get confused. When this is really high up, close to the horizon line, but it's not touching the horizon line, you're still going to crisscross. You're just going to see less of the top. So the closer it gets there, the smaller, like little bit of a sliver you're going to see of the top. As soon as it crosses the line or touches it, you don't see any top at all. Okay? So crisscross. This right side goes to the left. This left side goes to the right. And erase your extra. Now I'm not going to detail every building here, but maybe I'll just do this one. Let's just say this had all windows. On the right side, go to the right point. On the left side or front side, whatever you want to call it, go to the left point. And only draw it and stop at the back of the building. This is very similar to doing the sidewalk. The difference being that it's on the right side, it goes to the right point. Left side, left point. So you get that on the one side. I like to put my pencil down on the point I'm going to draw it, slide my scale up against it until it touches, and then swivel until it hits the point. It makes it so much easier than trying to eyeball it. I think it makes it a lot faster. Alright, now here's where it gets interesting again. I can't draw this one through the building, but I am going to see it over here. So you still got to line it up. You just start and end over there. And we got one more. Same idea. So that building is all windows. And it's done. Alright. Let's see. If I wanted to do a really tall building, okay, like a skyscraper, pick a point where you want it to start. Okay, it's going to go behind this building, but that doesn't really matter. Draw up. It's crossing the horizon line, which means you're not going to see the top of it, and you're not going to see the bottom of it. Okay? So the top is going to go to both vanishing points. I actually want to go a little bit lower because there's something else I want to show you on this building. Alright, I'm using my straight edge for these back lines. If you want to make it easy on yourself, just draw it until it hits the top of the building. If I do it out here, it gets a little bit more complicated because I don't know where the bottom edge is. So you actually have to define where that ends, right? And that where it ends can't be inside of the imaginary back lines here. So it could be anywhere outside of that, but it can't be inside of it because then the base of the one building would be inside the base of the other building. I know that sounds a little confusing, but let that sink in for a second, okay? The other side. Go until it hits the building. Erase your extra. Alright, so now look at this right here. If this was where the edge ends, okay, that first front edge, I'm not going to draw through the building, but I am going to draw where I can't see it. Or where I can see it, right there. And erase the extra. Now, I'm not going to put detail on this one. You guys can figure out what kind of detail you want to do. But here's a little trick for you. If I take this point, and I measured the distance between them, and somewhere in the middle, you don't really have to measure, you can just kind of eyeball this, but somewhere in the middle of those 2 points, if you go straight up and draw a little point, you can make like a little triangle top, or I should say pyramid top, by drawing it down to the 3 corners that you see. It's kind of tough with the spiral bound. That's why I like the big flat paper. So you get something like that. You would erase the horizon line in the middle of the building, which is a good reason not to do your horizon line dark. Alright, so we get something like that. Maybe I'll fix my horizon line too. Okay. The last thing I want to show you is that if you wanted to create a street or an alley, okay, you don't do what we did here. You don't start with this back edge and draw straight up for the next building. You leave a gap, and in that gap you then start your building however tall you want it to go. You still follow the same rules. This bottom is already going. The top is going to go. The top's going to go to the other one. The bottom's going to go to the other one. And then you're going to draw your back lines, and you're going to crisscross. Now this little area in here, if I wanted to, now this wouldn't really make sense to be a street, because if you run right down that, you're going to run into this building. But you guys get the idea that you can create city blocks by having the lines of this street go towards this. I actually kind of messed that up. That should go towards this vanishing point this way. And if you had a street here, let's say we started another building. I'm going to do this one quick. This one would go towards that building, or that vanishing point. So it would look like there's some kind of street going through there. All right, now again, that building's in the way, and that wouldn't really make much sense, but you get the picture, okay? Pun intended. Any questions? I don't see any hands, so I think that's it. You guys are going to do 10 buildings. You're going to do 3. Oh, we got to talk about a stack, okay? So if I wanted to stack something on top of this, so you're going to do 10 buildings. You're going to do street, sidewalk, 10 buildings. Out of those 10 buildings, you have to do 3 stacks. I would count this as 2 shapes that are stacked, okay? So that's 1. If you want to stack something on top of this one, it doesn't have to be a pyramid. It could be another box. Pick a point inside of the top. Let me draw the top of that a little bit darker. Draw a new edge going straight up. And then draw that edge just like you would normally do towards both vanishing points. Drop your back lines. I'm going to keep this one like kind of thin. Oh, I missed one. So this is going to go to both vanishing points. No horizon line back there, so you erase that out. Erase your extra. Clean up whatever you erased by accident. Oops. And then the last thing here would be that you shouldn't be able to see the back 2 lines of this building. This line should go until it hits that building, and then you have the building, and then you would go this one until it hits the building, and you get something like that. And then you could put something on top of that if you want. You could do a really tall pyramid. The higher the point goes, the taller the pyramid is. Something like that. And that's pretty much it. That's all I want to show you guys. All right. So I hope this makes sense. I hope that you guys, other people out there, are enjoying this video. And that's pretty much it. All right. So I'll talk to you guys in the next video, which will be, I think, 3-point perspective. And this project will take you guys a couple days to do. All right. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Later. Gotta catch 'em all.